Ian, are you there?
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Here we are. We're ready to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Real Hospitality Live. Very exciting day. It's been crazy getting back from the Restaurants Canada trade show. It's been amazing. And with me today, I have the talk of the town. We literally sat around, and I say we, a bunch of chefs from around the world, from around North America, some of the top chefs you'd know, some of the top R&D chefs in the world. We're talking about Galley Solutions. And today I have Ian Christopher, who's the co-founder and president. Let's talk about the hot topic.
Happily.
How are you?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's an absolute honor and a privilege. We were already big fans before we got to join the network, and it's just it's an absolute pleasure to be partnering with you guys.
Well, you guys are down in California. Well, we're a little more frigid up here in Canada, but we're having a good day today.
Yeah, we're suffering. We have our thickest tank tops on down here. It's
poor souls, you poor men.
Yeah, hardly winter.
So, Galley Solutions, there's so much to talk about, and there's so many applications, and the way that it was born is really the really impressive part. Over and above the tech, and over and above the thoughtfulness and the craftsmanship, I love the story of Benji sitting in the commissary and coding, saying, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" and writing code to what people in the kitchen are doing. So let's give Benji a little ups too.
Credit where credit is due, for sure.
Sure. So how did you start this, and how did you start it with Benji?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the interesting thing or fun fact about Galley, to get out of the way, that Benji Koltai is our CPO, my co-founder, and more interestingly, my brother-in-law. So we have a really fun co-founding relationship. So it really makes our business kind of feel like a family business, even though we're a technology company, which more makes us feel like a hospitality business, which is where we want to be focused. We want to mimic the people we want to serve and provide value to. So the interesting backstory with Galley is really comes more from Benji's career path and journey, if you will, and specifically the opportunity that he had becoming an early hire at a company in San Francisco called Sprig. Sprig was one of the first full stack delivery only restaurants in the US. It was also a venture-backed company, so upwards of over $40 million in funding. So a lot of cash to play with, essentially, and some really incredible learnings that came out of that opportunity. Probably the most critical was one that was driven by Benji, and that was when he was asked, because Sprig was really a massive food operation at its peak in San Francisco. It was, they were producing over 5,000 meals per day at their peak. But what made it even more complex was that they literally had kind of a 2-week R&D production cycle. So they needed to push out 10 to 12 items on their menu daily, never to be repeated. So they had this really tight R&D and iteration cycle that they had to work through. And as a well-funded startup, they had resources at their exposure. They tested almost every software on the market, big old clunky ERPs, more agile recipe management tooling, really everything that they could find, and just never got through implementation with it. Never felt like it really solved their pain. And so, when the business was twofold, it was focusing on the delivery side. So there was a lot of technology being built around the delivery side. And what they realized when they had that technology more stable was they just didn't have the production efficiency they needed in the back of house in order to keep up with this almost ceilingless demand that they were experiencing. So they did something which we're extremely grateful for. They took a software engineer and they embedded him in a kitchen. And so that just doesn't happen a lot these days. We've heard some interesting use cases around, competitor software, but this was literally built in the kitchen. Benji was pushing code while he was sitting next to line and sous chefs and images. So, his job as a software engineer started by putting on a hairnet every day and walking into the commissary and sitting next to all of the real, the stakeholders in this food production value chain saying, hey, what software, what technology can I build for you that would make your workflow more efficient and productive? Right. And ultimately, the end result was essentially the V1 of Galley, which was really cool. But he also had incredible. So he was speaking to all the operators, but then he had some really high level culinaries kind of looking over his shoulder, also kind of informing best practice. And Benji, for as much as we eat together, he's not a cook. He's pretty dangerous in the kitchen, but he's not a cook. He's a foodie. He loves food, but being this naive expert kind of perspective on just what he does really well is problem solve. And so what they were doing was looking at what are all these problems in back of house? Where can we squeeze some efficiency? What data do you need to surface in order to make better decisions? All of those sort of processes. So it was really just a marriage of this perfect sandbox to play in. All of these great culinaries influence the product, and then Benji's problem-solving acumen that just came together to create what we are continuing to bring to the market today of Galley.
I think the fun part about that is you have somebody like Benji who's not afraid to ask the questions because he's not originally of the industry. So he doesn't think, oh, well, somebody thinks I should know that. Right. So, hey, what are you doing there? How does that work? Tell me more. Right?
Absolutely. And for us, that's what this is all about. This is about building a tool for an industry that we have a heart for. While Benji isn't a culinary, my background is in hospitality and as well. And then we every day only build our product in hand with active users or people in our ambassadors. So these are culinary professionals from around the world that are literally in our application every day, using it for their own contextual workflow, but then also dreaming, where else can this be used? How else can this be used? And they're giving us that feedback daily, literally in our app, providing us every day through our chat function. Here's another idea. Here's another idea. Here's how it could be used. So we really wanted to build something that felt like it was transformative, coming from the inside out rather than disruptive, because that's not what this industry needs. What we've found is that it needs something that is way more sustainable, not a flash in the pan, not a gimmick, not snake oil, but something that really helps solve the pain that can be so real in back house.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and that's the thing that drives me crazy is the gimmick and snake oil tech, where we've come up with something that we think is going to work within your industry. What do you know about our industry?
Yep.
Well, nothing. We just thought this was a good idea because we eat in restaurants sometimes.
And you know what, we're all stand up and say the one thing that we did do, and you don't need to be technical or in the industry to recognize this, because we all hopefully eat 3 meals a day. We have this personal relationship with food, and we should have a personal relationship with cooking on some level. Right. So why we are so different is because we take a very hyper-focused view on recipes. We start with the recipe. The recipe, we are, democratizing a recipe-based ERP. That's really scary tech speak, but essentially we believe that the core IP or the atomic unit of a food service organization is the recipe. And so a recipe has been the tradition in which, culinary information has been handed down for centuries. So it also has this really cool level of familiarity, because even if you drop into our R&D workflow, our recipe page, even the UI and UX can somewhat mimic what chefs would see in a cookbook. And that was very intentional from the onset.
If you could see all of the chefs who are watching this now, there'd be 1,000 chefs standing on their feet, clapping their hands.
Well, we just didn't want a chef to have to go get a computer science degree in order to use a tool that brings them, a ton of value. And we also didn't want them to stare at something all day long that they want to, gouge their eyes out. It needed to be a tool that was intuitive, had the right data model. This has to be bottom up. We have to be focused on the recipe, because the recipe allows you to even do things like forecast labor, to think about production. Just everything stems from a really well-structured recipe. And so we wanted to make a really enjoyable experience for chefs to be able to interact at that level.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've we're hyping it up and we're glazing it over. So let's talk about some of the chutzpah of this tech. Where does it fit in? What does it do? So that we can understand it in our language and industry language, and how does it speed us up and not slow us down?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we have a pretty broad value proposition that we believe we can really provide anyone who uses a recipe to convert a raw good into a finished product a ton of value. And in the most simple use case, it's restaurant operators and large food businesses, typically operating out of a central commissary kitchen, is really where we're focused today. And so our data model, again, is based on recipes. So what we do is we take your recipes, we marry that with your purchasing data. So you give us your purchase orders, it could be your receipts from your last 6 orders, however you capture that data and you have it. That's also the beauty of Galley here, is we don't want to put any more pain back on the operator. We want to keep offloading that as much as possible. And so that's where we've been hyper focused in creating a really streamlined onboarding experience where this doesn't become this massive pain to get onto Galley. We have ways of ingesting recipe data in any format almost, chicken scratch on the back of a napkin to an Excel file, a structured CSV from competitors, all of that. So ways of getting that data in, I only pause to say that, is that should be really streamlined and easy, and that's been something we've been focused on. So when we have that recipe data, we marry it to purchase data, which allows you then to really use a recipe as a more actionable format, in the sense of when you build a recipe, then that's linked. So the components of a recipe are then linked to ingredients, which are linked to vendor items. So when you are R&Ding a recipe in Galley, let's say we're making a ginger carrot soup, those carrots are actually linked to real world vendor items with all of the metadata around pricing, availability, all of that, captured there, so that when we go and build this carrot soup recipe, when we say carrots, we're actually also building our production plan, and we're also building our purchase order as well. So it's really coming from the first step has these incremental and almost exponential values and benefits that you kind of capture as you move through different workflows. So start with recipes, and then of course when you want to go purchase something, you need to know what inventory do you have on hand. So we're able to not only allow you to do cycle counts and sheet to shelf inventory to hold that against what you want to purchase, but we're moving towards almost full automated purchasing as well. So we need to be able to theoretically understand what inventory you have on hand and have that be really accurate to the highest degree of accuracy possible. But core tenet here that I would pause to is that the way you run your kitchen is the way that you should run your kitchen. We don't want to come in and say there's a better or different, we could say there's a different way of running it, but our system is built so that we can come along your existing operational process and be really highly complementary. So that means, if you want to bump out to PDFs and paper and go, and get back into a more familiar, whether you're ready to have iPads, a bunch of our customers since joining Galley have brought iPads into the kitchen and TV screens and KDSs and things like that. But that's not a necessity for getting value out of Galley. We wanted to create a platform that is complementary to that workflow, and honestly, there's a lot we do there, so it take a while to unpack, but just know that that's a core value of ours as we build the product, is to really come alongside the existing process rather than top down say, hey, if you want to be successful in Galley, it has to be done this way.
Right. Now, where it's app based, if you guys are making changes from your end, you can just make the change and somebody doesn't.
One of the exciting things, just to be a Galley user right now, is we are pushing updates and new code and new features almost every single day. I would argue right now there's not a single competitor's platform that is pushing out, is building as quickly and as efficiently as we are. So it's just a really fun time for the business, because we are capturing all this feedback, but then our customers get to see us action on it and literally before their eyes see this product evolve based on their feedback. So it's a really fun time for the business, because that just endears us to our users, and it shows that we do want to come alongside them and support them.
We had I did the demo with Benji, and one of the things that came up was was food cost and yield and waste, which it took him 15 seconds to pop something in, and it was, I think it took probably 10 of those seconds explaining to me what he was doing, and 5 seconds to make it happen. And the example that we used was, so for example, you get a case of green peppers, and let's say for teaching purposes, it cost you $30. You aren't going to say, well, that $30 is my food cost, because you have to take the guts out and the stem out and the seeds out, and now you've subtracted your part of your weight.
Yep.
So, and in a moment, he went in and said, you just do this, and there you go.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Things that we've been hyper focused on that are really, really differentiated in Galley. How we do, so trim yields. So what happens when you break down a product, like exactly in a lot of kind of rudimentary recipe management software. Yeah, I need a case. A case doesn't equal a case after preparation. So your recipe is already off. You're already flawed, and you probably under purchased already without even knowing it. So how we deal with that trim yield is a big one, but then also unit conversions is a huge part of our focus here. Of like, I don't know many chefs that got in the business to become mathematicians, and to really, and that love. I mean, there are a few that love doing these types of, unit conversions and calculations when it comes time to purchase. And so from day one, we were just hyper focused on how do we make this the most easy and intuitive system. So I'll just say, schedule a demo to see more, but at the highest level, we can convert anything into anything. And we have this beautiful workflow that allows you to speak the language of your kitchen. If you want to model everything in your recipes as hotel sheet pans or red scoop, blue scoop, or whatever kind of normalizing way you have in your process of doing units, we allow for that, but it also then maps back to the units that a vendor would want to see in order to do purchasing. But we take care of all of those conversions on the back end, so you don't have to pull out a calculator every time. And beyond that, you get it in the language your kitchen can actually ingest and use, and is used to. It's because it's closer to your process.
That, and gone are the days of having to stop at the Excel spreadsheet and going, oh, was that in milliliters, is that in ounces, and how does that case size come? And having to go back through and do your inventory.
Ash,
which is, it's more like,
yeah.
So you've been having it in a commissary environment. And so how is it performing in real time in kitchens that are not necessarily a pre-planned 2 weeks out type of an environment?
A la minute. Yeah, absolutely. So the good news about Galley today is that we have sold into and have partners in almost every kind of subsegment of food service right now, from massive food orgs doing non-commercial food service who use it either an on-site or kitchen or an off-site commissary. We have multi-unit QSRs using the product. We have a lot of folks in this emerging market around ghost and virtual kitchens using the product, which is more the a la minute style, some with some massive prep ahead. But yeah, there's almost every use case in food service represented within the user base today, which is really exciting for us, because what it kind of hints to is that there is an agreed upon framework for making food at scale. There's some certain things that all food operators tend to do when it comes to making food. That's understanding your recipes. That's going through a purchasing. That's understanding your inventory, and then planning production. And then of course some periphery services and workflows that tie into that. But that framework we found to be pretty stable across all kind of food service segments here. And so we've been able to gain partners in almost every segment. So I would say it's going really well. And we have use cases that map to probably anyone listening. And if you don't, we want to hear about it, because that's what we get excited about. Is we love the curveballs. We love the, hey, we do this differently. Can you take care of this? Can you help with this? Or is there a way that Galley already services this need today that I'm not seeing? So that we love that.
So if you and I were just meeting each other for the first time and having this conversation, I'd be super excited about it, and you're super excited about it. In the back of my mind, I would be thinking, so I'm busy. I'm, I'm busy running a restaurant. I'm busy with staff. I'm busy with ordering. I'm busy with numbers. I'm busy doing all of the things that I, as an operator or chef, does. How much time do I need to invest in the learning curve on this thing? Because do I need to go get a freaking degree to run it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. The short answer is no. If you do, then we have failed. we are not doing our job. So that's two parts. And one is to reference something earlier, onboarding. How do we get a restaurant operator to pause from the 3 fires that they have, potentially 3 fires a day that they're going to go battle every day. And it's a continual motion. And there's just so much stress wrapped up in keeping operations, moving ahead, let alone moving ahead efficiently. That we did need to really understand that use case and understand how do we get as much as what's in the chef's head into Galley in the most painless process possible. So that's done with both the ways that we can ingest your data, and then our customer support, our customer success team is just world class. And it's not a metric that is probably very familiar to this audience, but I'll just say it. We are almost breaking the scale for how you would rate the success of a software based on users, and that's something called an NPS, Net Promoter Score. And we have over a 75. And so, to give you good in this space would be about a 50. So we're kind of breaking as far as customer feedback goes, how they're adopting and how they're feeling about the product. So yeah, does that answer it? So it's streamlining the onboarding, and taking that burden off of you first and foremost. We do have to go through a certain discovery of how do you want recipes formatted? How does this work best for your operation? So there is some discovery, but we take on the burden of onboarding. And then we always try and ingest and collect as much data passively so that we're like, hey chef, we need this data. We're hoping that we build mechanisms into the platform that pull that in passively rather than bothering an executive chef who has 50 other things to do that minute.
So really, there's a consultation involved as to how does this work for you, and let's show you how this works for you.
Absolutely. And we work with partners. We also have an ambassador network of culinary professionals from around the world that are using this tool in their daily workflow. So as consultants, so they'll do menu engineering or recipe R&D or concept planning, whatever it is, and they'll use Galley as their backbone. And so those ambassadors also, they're extremely excited about what we're building. They'll even jump on sales calls with us and say, hey, this is how I've used Galley. This is where it's helped me. This is my use case. Oh, I've actually worked with a restaurant that looks, feels, and smells just like yours, and this is how we did a rollout. So there's a lot of support here, both from what we're providing and then just where, this kind of group of industry experts that have come around us to say, yes, we see where this is going and we want to be a part of it.
So where are we at in terms of, this is an excellent tool for pre-planning and getting your mise en place ready for your production.
Love it. Yep.
How are you integrating your sales in your real-time usage rather than just relying on doing an inventory? How are you integrating that into Galley?
The answer is slowly, because that is probably the most nuanced way that we've found around our broad value prop is everyone has a different way of forecasting. And so if you're a restaurant, it's probably based on historical sales data. If you're a caterer, you're instance based, you're event based. So that's a different time scale, different way. So we wanted to really go a little bit slower in building out sales integrations. We are building them right now. So we'll be able to ingest your POS data. And right now we have tooling to help with forecasting no matter what kind of entity you are, but we wanted to do it right. So we've taken a slower approach here. And we will never be a company that tells you, we will not get into forecasting as a service here because we don't feel like that can really be done well with where technology and things are today. We can't predict the weather. We can't predict social. There's just too many variables in forecasting to the level of accuracy that we would feel comfortable representing. So it's something that will evolve with our business and with the product over time. But right now, we can ingest your sales data. We can make sure that you have an understanding of your forecast, and that will only get more robust over time.
So still now at this point, we have to withdraw the info from the POS.
We have some automated importers, yeah, that can pull POS data, and we're building connections to POSs, so it'll be direct.
Right. So it will pull from some POS and bring it into the system.
Exactly. And same with, or the other side is vendor integrations. Again, how do we make this streamlined? If you have to bump out the Galley into an intermediary format and then bump, that's a little clunky, but that's how some food businesses want to operate today. So that's how we built it. Some food businesses still want to get on the phone or still want to fax, and that's fine. You can still get a ton of value from Galley if that's your channel for getting in touch with your vendor. But some of the larger food businesses want to directly order from those large vendors. And so we're building out those integrations. So it will be a highly connected platform, and what you're talking about is the exciting part of, we're an early stage company. We've got great customer traction, some incredible partners, but it's super exciting because we're still building. This is, the airplane's in flight and we're building it. So it's really exciting time.
So are you guys able to pull from large vendors like US Foods and stuff like that? I mean, which they're going to have a fairly common price on carrots, for example, but that price goes up and down.
Fluctuates, yep.
And it changes whether or not they like the vendor or they're doing enough volume.
Yep. And so what you're hitting on is that once we understand that once we have that inflowing of data into the platform, then we can start to show our users the diffing, like what happened to the price of carrots over time. And also let's marry that with other data that we might only have, like how many times have you been shorted? Does this vendor actually deliver on a Tuesday and a Thursday? Oh, and wait, you need those carrots by Thursday because you have a carrot soup going into production on Tuesday. And if you don't get this order in, you won't make that. So that's the type of interconnected data that we're playing with in order to really drive towards this automated purchasing, as I mentioned earlier. So, talking with the big vendors, getting that information, it's critical. That opens up kind of the ability to layer on some analytics too around those workflows.
So if everybody gets excited about it, and what do you think some of the challenges are with chefs in learning it, and like what's some of the feedback that you're getting directly from new people getting in front of the program?
So how we've seen customers be most successful is to go through kind of this organic journey of let's get our recipes in, let's start understanding our food costs, let's start understanding our margin first and foremost before we do anything. I mean, I think the last, and it's probably a very outdated statistic now, was 80% of all food businesses haven't costed in the last 3 years. From our data, it's even higher than that. So, it's like that at the core is what we do with just our base recipe and menu module. And then we want to entice the customer to go on this really organic journey that mimics their own process too of, okay, I understand my margin, I understand my costing, and now I can start to think about, okay, do I have what I need on hand to execute on this? So that means, do I have inventory? And then wait, okay, I don't, I need to purchase. So that's another little journey. And then wait, okay, I've purchased, now I need to receive, which closes the loop there. Oh, and then I need to move into production. So there's this very organic journey that mimics the natural process in the kitchen. And so we see customers that go through that journey be a lot more successful because they take it on in bite-sized pieces. But then there's food orgs that drop in and they want the full meal deal. They want to go, guns blazing and be operational in 3 days with all modules. That we've made customers really successful, but that's a big task. That's a big chore for anyone. That's lots of teams, lots of stakeholders involved, because Galley does have the ability for all of your teammates to really collaborate in a single source of truth, one place. It's a place where your accountants can be happy. It's a place where your sous chefs can be happy. It's a place where your executive chefs can be happy. It's even a place where your business owner can be happy, because in our late stage of production model, it's what is the transparency happening in the kitchen? Can a business owner look on their phone and understand that the tasking that's happening in the back of house is on track at a glance?
That was my next question is, do I need to always go and sit down in the back cramped office where there's 85 manuals are going to fall on my head in front of my computer, or can I do this mobile from my phone? Can I check these reports from my phone, if I'm away or if I happen to just not be in the kitchen that day?
Yeah, great question. So when you're doing, we found that users like to use different types of devices in different scenarios based on what they're doing in the app. So when a chef sits down to create a menu, doing recipe R&D, it's typically at a desktop or a laptop, tucked away, hopefully with a good cup of coffee and, their feet up. But
Right.
ultimately, there's a workflow for almost every kind of place in the value chain. And so when we go and take inventory, that's done on mobile, and we've optimized for offline. So you can go into the bowels of, of some storage, space and be able to take inventory offline. That's done typically mobile or iPad. And then our production module is being optimized for iPad so that we can have screens next to a production environment, make sure it's sanitary and up to standards, but have that actionable data right there. Again, I think I mentioned earlier, also all of this data, we have lots of customers that display it on kitchen displays as well. So you hit the point, it's cloud-based. We're building on the latest and greatest technology. So we, not only is our approach here, somewhat modern, but we're building on technology that is built to last. We're starting almost ahead of the curve, and so it's all right there as far as latest and greatest.
I think being able to introduce that level of technology and smarts and as we say, craftsmanship to an industry that's slow to change in that way is the way to do it. Because if we're going to take the time to learn something, and we're going to take the time and the money to invest in something, we want to make sure that it was worth our while, and 6 months down the road we're not questioning what we've got ourselves into, because of the time factor, really. At the end of the day, we want it to be streamlined. We don't want to have to, continuously go back through Excel spreadsheets, which is the bane of our existence. And we want to be able to have more knowledge about our organizations and about what our yields are and our manufacturing plans and all of those things, to be able to have them at our fingertips even if we get a bright idea or something goes wrong.
Yep. We understand this is a big decision for any business to make. I mean, when it comes to purchasing technology, making an investment, it's a big decision, and we want to be partners in that. And we really look at as cheeky and, kind of, as it sounds, is like we do look at our customers as partners, because we're still learning from them, and they're learning from us, and we're really highly collaborative on what we do and how we approach the engagement. So we take it very seriously, and we want to be providing best-in-class technology. And through our sales motion, we're highly differentiated, because if we're not the best tool for you, we're going to recommend other tools. We're going to tell you what's on the market. Oh, by the way, we build a success plan that tells you exactly how we're going to make you successful in Galley. And you know what? If it's not Galley for you, go shop that success plan at any number of our competitors, and we want to be actually supporting you and getting you into the tool set that works. We happen to believe that's Galley, but it's a very important and critical decision for a lot of food businesses that are looking to either do something differently or start anew, and so. Honestly, it brings to mind one of our largest customers literally was in a software search for about 6 years. They brought on a fractional CFO. So it was an org big enough to bring someone in to help with this search. They brought in a fractional CFO, CTO, and he helped lead this search. And it took him about 2 years. And then he came across Galley. In those 2 years, he got through getting to implementation with two of our leading competitors, and pulled out the promises around implementation, the timeline, the quality of their success team, all of those contributing to factors that just didn't make him feel like he had that confidence that he was not going to have to go back to the old ways. And when in his case, he's investing lots of time, energy, and resources into this process. And so, those are sunk costs if he has to go backwards. And so, they were very prudent, and luckily we, with limited marketing, we got on their radar, and we started a partnership in which now they are, one of our largest customers, building their own applications on top of Galley, on top of our API, on our back end,
right.
And it's an incredible partnership. And it was because of this process of taking this buying decision really seriously.
So, you guys have obviously put a lot of thought into it. You guys approach it in the right way. When I first met you guys, that was the thing that struck me, was these are guys I want to work with. These are guys who have thought about the industry in the right way, are looking at it in the right way, are ducking and weaving, and right in and seeing these things coming. So I love that you've embedded yourself into the industry so that you can change with the things that you're learning, and other people are coming and saying, well, what about this? Well, okay, well, let's move there. Okay, what about this? And we can make that work. I think that's the best way to do it, rather than, again, like we say, taking a box and saying, okay, now fit yourself into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our heart is for this industry. I mean, I grew up the son of a chef. Family business was catering. I was rolling out pasta on our living room table till 3 a.m. It felt more like slave labor, at that point. I think I was, but it was good. My mom paid well, so that was nice. I was able to buy my first car on catering, on catering revenue when I was 16. So I really can't complain. And just, food and hospitality is at our core, but we also want to bring this problem-solving acumen to it and do it with the industry, not outside of the industry. So yeah, and man, do we love to eat. So,
so I mean, probably the best way to get a hold of you guys is through the website or through one of your reps.
Absolutely, yeah. Website should point you to a way to schedule a demo, to get in touch. Absolutely, it's the best channel.
So I mean, and I loved the demo, but when people say demo to me, I'm like, I don't have from 10 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock to watch your demo.
No. Yeah.
So tell me about the demo so that everybody else can know kind of the way that works, and the way and what information am I going to get from a demo?
Painless. Yeah, absolutely. So, we have 2 ways we demo typically, and I'm kind of giving away our secret sauce here. So this is behind the curtain. Number one is, in early stages of the deal, for folks that really want to move quickly and see that the platform is real. We've already won awards, Addies for UI and UX. So the usability and the look of the platform is already world class. We can typically just show people who have seen other systems just a screenshot, and they're like, wow, this is categorically different.
Right.
So we'll run a demo early for those decision makers that want to move really quickly. But what we love doing is going through discovery, understanding your food business, getting some of your recipe data, and then literally launching you into a little instance of what your world could look like in Galley. So we take your recipe data, if we can get some of your purchasing data, we marry that together, and then we want to show you what your world will look like in Galley. And so we love to do that with contextual data. So that is typically after we run kind of a discovery, get to know you, get to know your food business, get to know what your intended outcome is. How do we set you up for success?
So you guys are based out of California,
there you go.
Yep. But you are so you're in the U.S. Now you've come into Canada. What's the next big trophy? What's the next big thing with you guys?
Well, Canada, we had to do for our wives. We're married to 2 Canadians, so that was no. We love our neighbors to the north. So yeah, we see Galley being a global platform. There's just the same way you make food here in the U.S. is applicable to the rest of the world. We actually have customers in 7 countries right now, so it's a pretty exciting time. For us, it's just continuing to scale the business organically. Is to work with our customers, continue to build the product too. I mean, this is, like I mentioned earlier, we're still building the product, and so we want to be hyper focused on that and providing real value to our customers, both existing and potential. So for us, it's execution. It's we have an idea of what we need to build. We want to continue to validate that and build it as quickly as possible, because we have so many folks just behind us cheering us on of like, hey, you're building the right thing, you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
How fast can you go? Like, pick it up. So,
I think the cool thing that you just said is about being in 7 countries is in 7 different countries, you're getting 7 different ways of cooking, recipes, cultural differences, and all of these different things. And if your functionality fits within those realms of food manufacturing and really what we do in the kitchen is food manufacturing at the end of the day. If that fits into there in 7 different countries and it's flowing, then really you've done the right thing, because the center of gravity is perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we feel completely honored to have such a wide variety of customers in both their use cases and their locations, all equally contributing to the product.
So we're on LinkedIn Live around the world. We're on Periscope Live around the world. We're on YouTube Live around the world. So what are some of the countries you're in? And we can say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chile, Brazil, we are in Canada, of course, and then multiple. We are in the EU, so we're in London and Madrid and Paris as well. So they get all. I think I got six.
And now just and as you're saying that, I'm tasting all the different flavors. Bang,
But,
bang.
yeah.
Awesome. I love it. So people can get a hold of you through your website.
So,
People can get a demo. They can ask all kinds of questions. You can do a consultation with them and find out how you can fit within their world to make their life a lot easier.
absolutely. And we'll be at a couple of trade shows in March specifically. We'll be at Menu Directions coming up. We'll be at Cater Source, and then the Food on Demand conference as well at the end of the month. And then we'll do NRA this year as well. So
You're going to Chicago.
yeah, the one in Chicago, exactly. So please come see us in person. We'd love to shake your hand, say hello, demo the product in person at a show. That would be absolutely fantastic.
That's awesome. I'm going to check with Robbie. We've got some questions, Robbie.
There was a couple of them, but I think you already answered them.
Okay.
Really POS integration.
Okay. One of the questions was POS integration, which we've covered.
Yep, cool.
I'm just checking.
Sure. Our producer Robbie handles all of the tech stuff. I'm just here to talk.
She's the wizard behind the curtain there.
He is the wizard behind the curtain. Absolutely, we couldn't do it without her. God love her.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is where I have to shamelessly plug you guys because it's been such an honor to be a part of the network. Really cool. I mean, just traction over the last couple of weeks from just being a part of the network and seeing you guys have a really high quality group of individuals that are really rallying around this industry, but really appreciate the perspective that you guys are bringing to it. And we couldn't be any more excited to be partnered with you guys.
Thank you. Well, let's and on that note, let's give a shout out to our friend Andrew Craig.
Absolutely.
From More Hospitality out of Ottawa, who was at the Restaurants Canada trade show. And as he's talking about Galley Solutions, people's jaws are dropping. And you can just see the wheels turning. They're going, what?
Andrew, do you want to go to 3 more trade shows this year?
I think we done. And you should bring them.
You're hired. Yep.
We were with, again, like I say, some great culinary minds. People with 25, 30, 40 years in the industry who are all going, tell me more. Tell me more.
That's awesome, man.
So,
was
there anything else, Rob?
No.
Okay.
Cool.
So the biggest thing was POS integration. We covered that. And I mean, I'm super excited about what you guys are doing. And again, I'll say it again. I love your approach to it. And I love the idea that you're in the right mindset and you have your heart in the right place with this. And all the success that you're having, you deserve every bit of it.
Thank you, Chef. And we look forward to hopefully many more of these, and having partners like you that help keep us accountable too. Be like, this is what the industry needs. This is what we want. Come on,
right.
Get to work.
Absolutely. And when we find the right partner, even like the right supplier, right?
Absolutely.
When we find the right supplier, that's it. We're
Go like this. Bring them in.
Industry. Yeah, we're family. We're going to do this together. Let's work together to make sure that that our day goes well. We make some money. We make people happy, and we're smart about what we're doing.
We're eating good food along the way.
Absolutely. Well, my guest today has been Ian Christopher, co-founder and the president of Galley Solutions out of California. These guys are so far ahead of the curve. You got to run to catch up with them. I love it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And again, let's do this some more, and let's bring Benji on next time.
Sounds good. Absolutely. Perfect. Look forward to it.
Thank you so much for your time today, Ian.
Thank you, Chef.
Take care.
Bye-bye.